Two sons of Shah Jahan, the great Mughal, Dara and Aurangzeb, are two sides of the same coin. From the time they were old enough, they were pitted against one another in a fight to the death over who would get to inherit their father's empire. When the dust settled in 1658, Aurangzeb was the winner of their titanic clash. He ascended the peacock throne, and his descendants continued to rule as Mughal emperors until 1857. However, a question remains over whether he was the right choice for emperor, and whether his brother, Dara Shikoh, could have done a better job. Let's have a look at both candidates and see where the path leads us, shall we? The eldest son of Shah Jahan, Dara Shikoh, was born in Ajmer in 1615. At the time of his birth, his father, then known as Khurram, was the favourite son of Mughal Emperor Jahangir. As such, for the first decade of his life, Dara enjoyed a life of luxury and enjoyment. However, this all came to an end in the mid-1620s when his father rebelled. Dara and his siblings and mother all moved with their father to a variety of places as Shah Jahan tried to keep his rebellion alive. However, when it failed in the late 1620s, Dara and his brother Aurangzeb were handed over to Jahangir as hostages, a situation they would remain in until their father ascended the throne in 1628. From the time of his father's ascension until his own death some 30 years later, Dara enjoyed prime position at his father's court. This included a lavish wedding to his cousin Nadira in 1632, and being confirmed as the heir apparent in 1633, and then 2 decades later being named to the position of Prince of High Fortune. What had Dara done to win such favours? Well, very little, other than being his father's favourite. Yes, he spent the years of his father's reign at his father's side serving as an advisor, and toward the end of his father's reign he was even in charge of government business. But he doesn't seem to have truly had much skill or impact. Indeed, when he took charge of government business in the late 1650s, his brothers were so terrified of what he would do that they decided to rebel. The one time that Dara did in fact take command of a military expedition to retake Kandahar, he failed miserably. He relied on quacks to try and take the fortress, including various mystics and Brahmins who claimed that they could use magic to force the Iranians to surrender. All they would need, of course, was access to some of Dara's much-needed supplies. Needless to say, their efforts failed, and Dara and his army rapidly lost food and morale. He further proved his uselessness by refusing to take advice from experienced generals such as Jai Singh or Jaswant Singh. Instead, he ridiculed them in front of their men and ensured that they would never trust him or like him again. When he returned to Delhi, he was not berated for a failure, as his brother had been many years before. Instead, he was feted and saw his and his son Suleiman's ranks increased. His alienation of key nobles reflected his high-handed approach at court, where instead of courting the nobility and winning them to his side, he belittled them, called them idiots and ingrates, and felt they misunderstood him and his purpose. This naturally meant they gravitated towards his brother, who welcomed them with open arms. But if he wasn't good at politics or war, what exactly was he good at? The answer to that is mysticism and scholarly pursuits. He spent most of his time with various Sufi sects such as the Qadiris and the Chistis, understanding their views and their ways of being. He studied the Quran and the Gita, as well as other texts to understand God, eventually culminating in his own book, The Confluence of Two Oceans. However, he went about this in such a high-handed way that he ended up alienating the vast majority of the ulema and other religious scholars that were present at the Delhi court, in a complete contrast to his supposedly bigoted brother Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was born in 1618 as the third son of Shah Jahan, and like his elder brother, grew up in their father's household until the mid-1620s, when he was handed over to Jahangir alongside Dara. Following their father's ascension to the throne, Aurangzeb engrossed himself in his studies, taking a more orthodox path than his brother, something that he would use later in life to differentiate himself to Dara. The first time he came to public notice was in 1633, when he and his family had gone to observe an elephant fight. One of the elephants had grown wild and charged at Aurangzeb, and instead of running away, Aurangzeb charged headlong into danger, throwing his weapons at the beast. Whilst he ended up getting slightly wounded, the incident earned him the name Bahadur, or brave. Such bravery would be on display later on when he campaigned in bulk, where in the heat of battle he would dismount from his elephant to prey. From staring down an elephant, Aurangzeb was sent on his first campaign to put down a rebellion in Bundela, an effort he succeeded in quite brutally. From there, he was sent to the Deccan to complete a process that had started under Akbar, mainly the conquest of the region. From 1636 to 1644, Aurangzeb served as Viceroy of the Deccan, and in that time he not only conquered Ahmednagar, ending the Nizam Shahi dynasty in the process, he also ensured that Bijapur and the Golconda Sultanates in the south paid tribute to Delhi. Such success would, you think, earn him credit with his father Shah Jahan. However, in 1644, when his sister Jahanara fell ill after being severely burned, instead of rushing back to her side like his other brothers, Aurangzeb waited for 3 weeks until leaving for Delhi. Needless to say, his father was furious and stripped him of his role in the Deccan and his rank. It took Jahanara's intervention after her recovery for Aurangzeb to be restored to his rank and named governor of Gujarat. However, before he left for Gujarat, Aurangzeb created quite a stir by announcing before his father that he was terrified that Dara was trying to kill him. Shah Jahan dismissed such concerns and berated his son, and evidence does not really exist to suggest whether Aurangzeb was well-founded in his concerns. But, given the nature of Mughal sibling rivalry, he perhaps was not exaggerating. From Gujarat, Aurangzeb was sent north to Balkh to finish the campaign that his brother Murad had started. Aurangzeb managed to reach an agreement with the tribes of the region in which they would be allowed to keep their rights in return for acknowledging Mughal sovereignty. However, the huge amount of money expended on the campaign, on Shah Jahan's assistance, did not endear Aurangzeb to his father. Things went from bad to worse when Aurangzeb failed to retake Kandahar from the Iranians. A lack of money and supplies meant that his efforts were in vain, and when he was recalled to Delhi, Shah Jahan berated him mercilessly and sent Dara in his place. Aurangzeb was sent off to the Deccan again to serve as viceroy for a second term, and whilst there almost succeeded in conquering both Bijapur and Golconda, until his father ordered him off their case, at Dara's insistence. So, as you can see, Aurangzeb, unlike his brother, had military and political experience, and despite failing to retake Kandahar, he won plaudits from the nobility for the way he conducted himself during the campaign, ensuring his men's needs were looked after and ensuring they were paid on time. He also, unlike his brother, never berated one of the nobles in public. If he had a stern word to say to them, it was said in private, where they could express their own views in return without fear of breaching etiquette. And whilst he may have been a devout Muslim, he did not try and berate others into accepting his views, unlike his brother. This ultimately meant that when Shah Jahan fell ill in 1657, he had a ready base of support to work from, and the fact that his political instincts kicked in meant he used others such as his brother Murad to distract Delhi from his own true intentions. Ultimately, if you look at what the Mughal Empire was, it needed someone who was both politically and militarily able. It needed someone with a broad base of support across all stratums of society, not just at court. On the one hand, you have Aurangzeb, who had shown his ability militarily by conquering Ahmednagar, a kingdom that had resisted his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. He had also humbled Bijapur and Golconda, again something none of his predecessors had managed. His ability as a politician is best demonstrated by the fact that when the war for the throne broke out in 1657, his army and support base was made up of both Hindus and Muslims, including prominent Rajputs such as Jai Singh, who, having been humiliated by Dara, decided that Aurangzeb was the better bet. Dara, for all his ability as a scholar, was useless as a politician and a warrior. He humiliated nobles and berated them for his failures. However, despite these failings, when the time came to fight, he almost won, largely because he had the emperor's backing. So, with this in mind, who do you think was the better fit for the empire? Let me know in the comments.